But let's get straight over to Telecom 99 in Geneva. CNBC's media editor Kate Bulkley is standing by with David Castiel, President and CEO of satellite phone company Ellipso.
Good morning, Squawk Box. Good morning, Jeff. Yes, here at Telecom 99, we've been hearing a lot about global mobile satellite phone systems. Some of them are in trouble, and some of them actually launched here. Global Star launched its service this week, and they say their business plan is going to work. Of course, Iridium and ICO are currently in bankruptcy protection. They're trying to sort out their financing. And here to talk about his version of this business is the CEO of Ellipso, David Castiel. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Kate.
Let me ask you a question. Now, how are you going to actually be different from, Iridium and ICO? I mean, how has Iridium poisoned the well for you, so to speak?
To a certain extent, but not completely, I hope. Our business plan calls for a very different market access, namely price. The Ellipso system was conceived to address areas with low infrastructure at affordable prices, meaning 8 cents per minute for fixed telephony and 35 cents per minute for handheld telephony for more advanced areas. And until you have targets like that and can meet them, you have a very difficult business plan. And I think that's what explains the difficulties that our competitors have experienced recently.
Now, how about the cost of your system in general? I mean, Ellipso is an interesting name. Does it? I know it has to do with an elliptical orbit. I mean, your system's going to cost $1.5 billion. Now, Iridium was $5 billion project. You're only 1.5. You're going to launch in 2002. Is the cost of the infrastructure different?
Yes, absolutely. That is actually the most important element. In order to reduce the cost to an affordable level, you have to reduce the cost of the plant or increase the efficiency. There's very little you can do in reducing the cost of the satellites because they are satellites that everybody uses. However, you can increase the efficiency of your system. In the Ellipso system, we ensure that the satellites travel in a path that where the dwell time is increased over populated areas and reduced in areas of low interest. For example, in Antarctica, which is a very large area, we do not spend time. The elliptical orbit allows you to whiz by Antarctica and slow down over the northern hemisphere and swing back again very quickly. That means the satellites will spend much more time over Antarctica and over the northern hemisphere and very low time over Antarctica. And what you obtain is a very progressive distribution of circuits of capacity, almost perfectly related to the population distribution in the world. That is the efficiency.
Mr. Castiel, I wonder if I can ask you a question here from London. The technology sounds great, but if you don't have any customers, then your business isn't going to work. Where's the market for your service? We've already seen through Iridium that the market isn't as big as the analysts at the company had hoped it might be. Who's going to buy your service?
Absolutely, you are perfectly right. A market is defined as a product that people may or may not need and at a certain price. At $3 or $6 a minute, I think you are perfectly right. There is not much market except some eccentric users. At 8, 10 cents a minute or even 20 cents a minute, you have a lot of people that could buy this service. Our stand is inundated by people from developing countries asking us, when are you going to be operational? We don't have the infrastructure. We have millions of people. As a matter of fact, for your reference, there are about 3 billion people in the world that have no access to telephony of any sort. That's a huge potential. And granted, not all of them can afford even 5 cents a minute, but a lot of them could afford reasonable prices, as I said. At $3, $6 a minute, it's an impossible market to address, and you're perfectly right. And that's why our business plan calls for these low prices. And you can only do it by increasing the efficiency of your system, allowing the satellites to be where they should be, not where they shouldn't be. There is actually no reason to have billions of dollars deployed over the North Pole and the South Pole for more than a few minutes per orbit.
Mr. Castiel, clearly Iridium faced problems. They had to keep coming back to the market to raise money. The market decided in the end that wasn't a business that was going to float. With backers like Boeing and Lockheed Martin, obviously you can afford to spend a little bit more time. You've got deeper pockets. How important is it that you have a company like Boeing and Lockheed Martin behind you?
Well, very, very important. And I think a very important point in your statement is that these people Boeing and Lockheed and others joined us because the technology we offer makes sense. And they obviously want to be associated with a successful program. But it's very important to have big backers because we can rely perhaps on more equity, on longer term planning. And one of the reasons the two bankruptcies we have witnessed in the last few months occurred is based on the fact that they have a lot of high-yield debt that they could meet because they didn't have the customers yet to pay the debt. So you have to be very careful on how you finance these systems, and of course you have to give more equity and more participation to big backers, and they deserve it, frankly.
David, let me ask you one more question. We've talked a lot about voice services, obviously, and you say that there are people in the world that don't have access to voice telephony. But you this week actually announced that you're not only going to provide voice, you're also going to do some access to the internet. Why is that important now, and at what speed are you going to do that?
Yeah, it is very important because these systems were conceived in the early 80s, and we are offering services in the late 90s and perhaps the 21st century. So we have to adapt the features to what people will be using. And especially in the developing world, we have a need for higher bandwidth than 2.4, for example, in the Iridium system. Email capability and a few other features. So we upgraded that waveform to adapt to these features when we get into service. Because of some new techniques that we are developing with Boeing, we can, and Lockheed Martin, we will be able to go up to 100 kilobits per second, which is close to what the standard, not of course as much as the fiber offers to desks, but remember, you have a mobile phone like this one.
There's the phone. That's the phone, right?
The elliptical phone. And
hold that up just so that people can see it.
Yes, voilà. And of course, village phones in certain villages where the data throughput is not expected to be too high. So 100 kilobits or even 32 to 64 could be very acceptable for a multi-capability network.
David, thank you very much for being with us. David Castiel from Ellipso. We'll back to you in London. More from Telecom 99 later.
As Kate says, we'll be going back to Geneva a little bit later on in the program, and we'll be talking about Skybridge. So stay tuned if you're interested in what's going on in the satellite and mobile phone industry. Of course, stay with us anyway. At the beginning of the program, Simon paraphrased a nice Anglo-Saxon. So let's make our final cross to